Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3, Episode 10, New Life and New Civilizations. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Strange New Worlds up to the end of Season 3, Episode 10. If you have not seen this episode yet, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, I was all set. This episode confuses me in terms of I don't really know how to rate it or how to rank it or to say whether or not I like it, because here's the thing. I was all set to not like this episode. More than halfway through the episode, halfway through 30 minutes or so through the episode, I'm like, yeah, this is a bad episode. I know I'm not gonna like it, so I'm just gonna. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't the worst thing ever. It wasn't as bad as the holodeck episode or the crew turning to Vulcans episode or the documentary episode. Those three were terrible. It wasn't as bad as that, but I was all set to be yeah, this is goofy, good versus evil, monsters, BS, which is not really what Star Trek is about. And then the ending happened, and that just threw everything into chaos, because the ending was amazing. The ending was so good. It was perfect. It was touching. But it's in an episode that's otherwise bad, so I'm confused. I'm confused. I don't really know what to rate it. So, starting with the beginning of the episode, it brings back the sort of evil monsters from earlier in the season. Was it Through the Lens of Time, I believe it was called. And I knew they were going to come back because they were definitely hinting at that, but I wasn't looking forward to it. And I was like, yeah. It kind of reminded me of the conspiracy aliens in TNG Season 1, how they were yeah, they're fine, but they hinted at them coming back, and I was yeah, I don't really want to see them again. And as it turns out, we didn't see them again, and then I was disappointed. I was like, what? But they hinted they would come back. But here, they did follow through, and I knew that they would, because Strange New Worlds, of course, is more serialized. Even though it is episodic, it's also more serialized. So I knew that they wouldn't just leave us hanging the way that Conspiracy did. But I wasn't really looking forward to it, because in that episode they portrayed them as pure evil, and Pella had that speech about, there is evil in the world or in the universe just as sure as there is good, which I always find very anti-Star Trek. And someone brought up a quote by Roddenberry saying that good and evil are just concepts, and that's something that I personally agree with wholeheartedly. And so when they try to say, they're pure evil, I was just praising Strange New Worlds last week for foregoing the Gorn are just monsters and there's no good, and then last week they finally stuck true to Star Trek and showed that no, they're not just monsters, they're people too. And now this episode comes along. What to be fair, it's just carrying off of the earlier episode, but it's there is pure evil, and that's very un-Star Trek-like to me. And to be fair, this isn't the first time Star Trek has done this. Deep Space Nine did it with the Pal Wraiths, and also Dukat, the episode Waltz, where Cisco is talking about how Dukat is pure evil. It's like, there is such a thing as pure evil. And I complained about it then. You can go watch my review for Waltz that I made like 9 years ago. I complained about it then. I was like, this is not true. So my complaints aren't like unique to Modern Track. I'm not being one of those Modern Track haters that hate anything that came out after 2005. I've never been that. But, yeah, I've never liked whenever Star Trek has delved into there's pure evil, this is evil, and then like Star Trek Picard kind of did that too, with the evil AI that wanted to destroy all sentient life in the galaxy, and Discovery had control. Both those examples were AI though. But so, and they explained in this episode that these what are they called? Bethesda. I always think of Bethesda. Bethesdans or whatever they're called. They saying that they were around at the creation of the universe and they're the source of evil and all this mythology and stuff, and that's dumb. Like, evil exists in mythology because people, like in real life human beings, but in the context of Star Trek, humanoids, since create the conceptual concepts of good and evil, and they infer that into their mythology and give it physical or at least mythological form. That's why evil exists in all this mythology, not because there's some actual beings that have been around since, like, it's very fantasy-like. And I know I've said in the past that Star Trek is basically sci-fi fantasy, but to a lesser extent than a lot of other, like, hard sci-fi fantasy. This is like flat out, like, I was gonna say Lord of the Rings, but it's probably worse than Lord of the Rings. Like, just flat out, oh, there's the evil beings and they want to kill everyone. Oh, that just doesn't belong in Star Trek. It just doesn't. I don't think it does, personally. And this is something, as I said, it's not unique to Modern Trek. Deep Space Nine, it did this, but it is a problem that Modern Trek has had with constantly trying to create an evil being that wants to destroy the universe. Ooh, like they did that, as I said, in Discovery Season 2, Picard Season 1. And it's just like, you don't need to do that. Like, this is not what Strange New Worlds is about. And then the whole thing with Captain Betal being like, because she has like DNA from the Gorn and Illyrians and humans, that makes her automatically be able to have these superpowers that can combat these evil beings. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we've seen tons of different characters that have DNA from multiple species. That doesn't make them superpowered automatically. Like, that was also dumb. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And the pacing of the episode is not good. Like, it all just happened very fast. It reminded me a bit of, and again, I'm harping on Deep Space Nine. I will remind you, Deep Space Nine is my favorite Star Trek show, but it reminds me of the bit with Dukat and Kai Wynn at the end of the show where they're trying to release the Pal Rays, how that was it was just all set up and it was resolved like that. And I think it's kind of the same thing here. Like, it's all set up, and I don't really understand these sort of aliens and the like the weird time shit going on, and all the like the portals that and they needed what's his face Mbenga there in order to open the portal, and they tricked him into coming. Like I don't think that's been properly explained. I don't really get that. I thought it was kind of silly, but then it was all like set up. Like, even the stuff with, like, Kirk and Spock doing the mind meld so they could, open the portal, that was just set up to open the portal, and it was resolved like that. All that Betal had to do was glow her hands and defeat them like that. So, it reminded me of the Kai Wynn thing, and where all Cisco had to do was destroy a book that Dukat had, and he defeated them like that. It was like 8 episodes of setup just for that, like 2-second resolution, or the 5-minute scene. So it reminded me of that. I mean, I did kind of like this, Kirk and Spock thing, but like the ending scene that showed Kirk and Spock together, and they're like, "Oh, we could be good friends." And I'm like, you see that? This is where Kirk and Spock's friendship begins. We don't need this. I don't need to see that. Oh, and by the way, the whole scene where they had Scotty, they told him this formal wear, and he showed up, and everyone else was casual, and they laughed at him. They did this joke, this is a callback to when they did this to a horror in season 1, and when they did that, I said then that I didn't like it, that it seemed like hazing and something Starfleet should be above, and I stand by that here. So I again don't find it funny and think it's out of character for Starfleet officers to do, but maybe that's just me being all uppity or whatever, but that's just that's just how I feel. So the ending. And Captain Betal goes to fight the aliens, and she kind of knows that she is going to have to sacrifice herself in order to keep the aliens at bay. Now, again, stand by that the whole concept is very fantasy-like and be below what Star Trek should be doing, but the ending where she creates a whole another life for Pike, or where they get to live out their lives together, was so good. It was so touching. It was so amazing. It's so earlier in the season, I was been talking about how we know that Betal has to not be in a relationship with Pike anymore by the time we get to Menagerie, because she's not around when he's in the BP chair, and he goes off and lives his life with what's her face, Vina. So she's not around, so we knew that she has to go away somehow, whether it be her leaving him or her dying or something. We knew it was going to happen. And the way that they resolved it was so powerful. I was not expecting it to be resolved in such an emotional and powerful way that they did, in fact, live an entire life together. Now, I heard someone else describe it as like a fake reality, but that's not how I took it. I took it as it was an alternate reality, but it was reality all the same. It's just another version of reality, but it's still reality. As because she used the weird timey-wimey BS that whatever that I don't really understand that place has, but she used her this timey-wimey powers. It's kind of like, I don't know, this is getting into the whole, like, I don't know, Q thing where he can create alternate realities, which I think are just as valid as the actual reality. It's just a different version of reality. So it's really, I compare it to The Inner Light. And I think, honestly, it's just as powerful as The Inner Light. Where Pike gets to live an entire life, getting married and having children. And in some ways, it's more powerful because he's doing it with an actual person that he knows, with an actual person that he loves, and not just waking up and finding himself with a random wife and learning to love her. That he, and also, like, I feel like The Inner Light was just implanted memories, whereas this was an actual reality that he lived. So in some ways, it's more valid. And how he remembers it. He had lived an entire life up to an old man, and then he comes back, and all of a sudden he's back in this huge, fight for the death against evil, and sees the woman he just spent his entire life with sacrifice herself to become a statue, which is dumb, but man, that whole sequence, and they have a daughter, and she goes off to get married, and I love the knocking at the door as a regular thing, and how it also represented, like, coming back to reality. And when Pike heard the knocking, and he wanted to go answer it, and she's like, no, come, stay with me, because she knew that would mean that they went back to reality, so they wanted to wait. And also, my feeling of it is, when they were old, that he experienced all that time. Like, we, the audience, only see the snippets of it because, there's only so much time in a 50-minute long episode. But I think it was telling us that Pike actually experienced all of that. He lived an entire lifetime, much as in the same way that Picard lived an entire lifetime in 20 minutes in The Inner Life. He lived an entire lifetime within, the blink of an eye. And that's really powerful. And I love how it affected Pike. It was, and how he was, because much in the same way that Picard was affected by The Inner Light, and a lot of people were complaining, they should have shown him more in different episodes, how it changed him. But they did show that Pike was, like, completely out of it. Like, he just lived an entire lifetime, and then came back to this, time where they were younger, and then saw the love of his life just sacrifice herself to save the universe, and there's nothing he can do about it. And I love the scene where he's sitting by the fire, like, drinking with Una, and she just says, "You want to talk about it?" and he's like, "Not yet." Like, that was so powerful, touching. A moment, was tearing up talking about it. And I love seeing that relationship with Pike and Una. I think they don't develop. I think they've been lacking in that in the past season, and maybe past season and a half, really. And so it was good to have that moment that she was there to comfort him, and the moment on the bridge where he was still kind of out of it, but his crew was, like, all, excited and trying to get him in the mood and whatever. And Una was like, "Is this a hit it situation?" Which, by the way, that's like the final scene of the season, and they had it in a trailer. Don't do that. Like, I know it's not like a huge plot point spoiler or anything like that. I just don't have the final scene of the whole season in the trailer. Like, just don't do it. But no, that whole the whole sequence was amazing. And if this whole episode was about that, or if that was the main point of the episode, then I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10 and call it one of the best episodes of the entire Star Trek franchise. Honestly, I thought it was that good and that powerful. But as I said, like the first 40 minutes or so of the episode I thought was bad. So I don't know what to do. Like it was mostly a bad episode, and all the concept, and even within the context of that amazing sequence, is all about her being powerful and using magic powers to become a statue, and all that stuff is dumb. But the personal story of Pike, like living an entire lifetime, and plus like, so when I was watching that, I thought I was unsure of what was going on at first. I'm like, what's happening here? But when it got to the point where he went off to be an instructor or whatever, where he was supposed to get paralyzed, and he comes back and he was fine, I was immediately like, oh, this is an alternate reality. Like, that's what immediately clued it off, that he's living a different reality, or like a fantasy. But I think it's more of a different reality than a fantasy. Yeah, like, I heard someone compare it to the Nexus, but I would compare it more to the Inner Light. Oh, but even in the Inner Light, it was just implanted memories, where this is like, I feel like an actual, like, reality that actually happened. But I guess it depends on your definition of actual and real. But but for me, I think it is more real. But yeah, it was interesting, the whole thing about him thinking that it was powerful too, thinking that it was I'm going to come back paralyzed, you're going to have to take care of me. And I knew, even as he was saying that this must be something different, because that's not what happens. Like, he lives in this weird, the home, and being taken care of by that Commodore guy. He's not like married with kids. So yeah, I did already know that something was up, but that was still that was a very powerful moment, and when he came back and he was fine, and they were, living a happy life together. Like, yeah, it's basically the Inner Light, and I think it's just as powerful. As I said, maybe even more so, because it's actually a woman he loves. And ultimately, it's a way because as I said, like, we knew the two of them were going to have to part, and it's a way for her to give him this beautiful gift before leaving, saying, this is the life, not just that we could have had together, but that they did have together. Like, let's have this life together in the blink of an eye before I have to go off. And so, kind of like a consolation prize. And that's really beautiful. And that's really powerful. But it's coached in an episode that's silly and dumb, or a storyline that's silly and dumb, about her getting these magical powers to fight an evil being. So I don't know how to feel about this episode. So my rating for New Life and New Civilizations out of 10, I think I'm going to give it an 8, extremely good. Now, if it wasn't for that last sequence, I would probably give it a 4. But if I was just judging that last sequence, I'd give it a 10. But I think that sequence is powerful enough that I still give it an 8. Just based on that whole ending sequence on its own. I think that's one of the most powerful moments. Like, I'd put that right behind my favorite episode of the show, Quality of Mercy, the season 1 finale, and I would put it up there with that. But it's, as I said, it's within a silly, ridiculous story, non-Star Trek storyline. So I can't give it a 10, and I also can't give it a 9. And I'm actually thinking, by giving it an 8, which is much more than that crappy good versus evil storyline deserves, and also how rushed it was and everything like that. 8 is way more than it deserves, but that ending on its own was just so powerful. It automatically pushes it up, and it was such, as I said, it was such a beautiful way to end the relationship with Pike and Betal. I did not see that coming. Like, I knew this relationship had to come to an end. In fact, like in the previous episode when she got the job or whatever to become this, or 2 episodes ago, whatever, when she got the job to become like this head thing, like I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, and especially when this episode started and she's like, oh, I'm staying on board to come on this mission, and the whole thing is like, oh, I know I need to be here somehow. It's like I was thinking it's being more like Lost with like faith and oh, I know. It's not really the kind of thing Star Trek does, but but when she said she was going to stay on the ship, I'm like, oh yeah, she's not coming back. She's going to die or whatever, or something is going to happen where she's not going to come back. Like, I kind of knew that from the beginning, but I don't know. That whole living a whole life together as a way of parting, it was just so beautiful, and the way it affected Pike was just so strong, like very emotional. So part of me wants to give it a 10, but then I remember all the crap at the beginning, and it's like it can't have a 10. It can't have it. But 8 out of 10 for me. Anyway, that is it for my review of New Life and New Civilizations, but it is not it for my coverage of Strange New Worlds, because this coming Monday I will be doing a live discussion with my sister Alyssa and Darren from D's Reviews as we try a slightly different format to talk about this season. We are going to rank the episodes collectively from our least favorite to our favorite, much in the same format that we've done before for like Marvel movies and time travel movies and stuff like that, where we each take turns naming our least favorite until we come up with our collective countdown. We're going to do that with the 10 episodes of season 1 and give our overall thoughts of the season. So be sure to check us out for that. I will put the link to that in the description below. I will also by myself be back next Thursday to give my overall review for season 3 of Strange New Worlds. And other than that, you can check out my channel as I continue to cover every single episode of Star Trek, currently in season 4 of Deep Space Nine and season 2 of Voyager, and doing many other videos on Star Trek and other shows as well. So please be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.